Hello, beautiful homemakers. A few years ago, I read a very interesting book by Cassandra Arson called The Clutter Connection: How Your Personality Type Determines Why You Organize the Way You Do. The first time I took her test was on her website, clutterbug.me, and I came out as a butterfly. But when I read her mini online book detailing the 4 different organizing styles that are based on your personality, I thought I was a bee who coveted being a cricket. See her website for a quick explanation of the 4 clutterbugs. I bought this book since it goes into depth on the 4 areas with color pictures, and I wanted to know more. I was skeptical of her test and felt that the questions weren't clear enough, so I took the test several times on different days, and again after reading each of the 4 sections of her book. I felt that on many of the questions I could answer yes to 3 out of 4 scenarios. So one time I did this on all the questions and then added up my score that way. Ultimately, I kept scoring as a butterfly by 1 or 2 points over being a ladybug, and my cricket and bee scores were even, and just a point or 2 below ladybug. I felt I was coming out too even across all the categories, which is impossible. I was frustrated because I'd say to myself, but I put things away. I use drawers. I use filing cabinets. How could I possibly be a butterfly? Then, finally, I realized that I was to take the test as if I had absolutely no organizational systems in place at all. What my natural state would be if I never tried to organize anything at all, and wham, it worked. I could see how and why I am a butterfly. I had been confused because I have many organizational systems in place that are working for me, because I had already solved many of a butterfly's typical organizational problems. Since I am able to put my folded laundry into drawers, put the peanut butter back in the pantry each morning, hang my clean clothes up immediately into closets, put papers into certain filing systems, put my makeup back into the drawer each morning, etc., my organizational successes were skewing my test results. Once I realized I was to take the test as a newbie and got my result as a strong butterfly, things began clicking for me. All at once I realized why I am indeed a butterfly. While I crave organizational simplicity like a ladybug, I must have lots of color. And I have the tendency to forget about things that are hidden in solid bins or baskets. I'm always saying how boring brown house exteriors are, and how I just can't stand brown or gray walls. Black shutters? Yuck! An all-white room? Boring! Unless you were highlighting some incredible items that are colorful and make the room pop. Well, I like that. That kind of white room works. It really was revolutionary to me. Things just clicked, and I got what she was trying to convey. I was instantly able to go around my house and confirm why certain organizing styles worked for me and why others didn't. I reevaluated every room with new eyes. I was able to go into my junk room and grab some trays and see-through bins with lids and baskets without lids and put them to work for me in a way that made sense, ensuring that I would be able to use them. I moved forward with a new understanding that helped me not fall victim to every organizational technique and gadget in the stores. Cass helped give me clarity. She showed me how everyone in my family organizes differently. And 1 year later, these systems are still working perfectly for me. Everything I organized is still working. Yet, during the reading of her book, I kept saying, I'm a bee! I'm sure I'm a bee! Ultimately, I realized that I am more of a butterfly than a bee because I must see my things or I forget about them. Mail, bills, pens, calendars, lists, coupons, library books. I must organize these things on a macro level. But my junk drawers, my makeup drawer, my bathroom items, and stationery, I was able to micro-organize after watching her videos. I realized that while I keep the majority of my jewelry in a large micro-organized case, what I want to wear for a given month is placed on a tray, macro, so that I don't forget about it, because for me, out of sight is out of mind. I even forget that I own holiday jewelry. Books I have read and want to keep are filed on certain shelves. Children's books are on another shelf, already read in one area, to be read in another. History books are organized by the years covered in the book. School books are organized by grade. These seem to be micro-organized to me. But books I want to read in the coming year? They need to be stacked on my dresser in my sight line, or I will forget about them. Macro. I have the tendency to read about 27 books at a time. I have always been this way. I'll read a few chapters over several days or weeks, get halfway through a book and move on to something new. Then I'll go back and finish a different book. I must have visual reminders to help me. I have appointments such as eye doctor and dentist visits on my calendar, micro. But for sales, coupons, and bi-monthly orthodontist appointments, I must have the coupons or reminders taped to the wall next to my calendar so that I'm constantly reminded of them, macro. As I mentioned, I have many types of filing systems. For important papers that I must keep for a long time, like insurance information, I have a system with a lid by my desk, micro. But I pile things on top until I get around to filing a few times a year. That's macro. Yet for everyday receipts, I just open a desk drawer and pop the receipt into the accordion file by month. I don't file by subject because the chances of my having to look at the receipt again are small. Yet I don't want to toss the receipt. So that's macro organizing. And then I drop all my tax receipts into their own easy-to-use case binder, macro. So again, my preferred filing system is macro, not micro. She was right. I am a butterfly. Cass explains all the reasons why we do the things we do, like what I've explained above, and which systems will then work well with your Clutterbug personality. However, there are still categories I haven't yet organized. My desk is still messy, though much improved. And my dining table is still my office/homeschool desk, which is always covered with papers and piles that need to be dealt with, though they are all macro-organized now. The importance of color. Color and the absence of color affects me greatly. When I bought my first house, all the walls were a dull pink with teal carpet. I knew hardwood floors were underneath the carpet, and I could easily see past the drab pink walls and visualize white and yellow in the kitchen, but I remember remarking, I know why this house is for sale. The pink walls drove the couple insane. I later found out that the couple was indeed divorcing, and research on color proved me right. While pink's calming effect has been demonstrated, researchers of color psychology have found that this effect only occurs during the initial exposure to the color. When used in prisons, Inmates often become even more agitated once they become accustomed to the color. While I like the color pink on clothing, I cannot stand the color orange, unless it's on a pumpkin or an autumn leaf. There, it's beautiful. But on clothing or walls, no. From the psychology of orange, orange tends to be a controversial color. People either tend to love it or hate it. And Wolf Kahn said, "Orange is very blatant and vulgar," which are my thoughts exactly. The relevance of knowing my Clutterbug type was proved to me again this past November. We were given a free night's stay at a motel chain, and we were on websites deciding where we should go. We would find a city we wanted to visit, but when we'd look at pictures of the rooms, I'd say, "I absolutely cannot stay here. It would drive me crazy." I had such a strong negative reaction to the decor and carpets. Many were all brown. The bedding, carpet, furniture, draperies, they were terrible. And some rooms had orange circles on the floor. What was the designer thinking? It was hideous. The newer rooms were all gray, and I had the same reaction. These carpets had wavy lines that made me seasick just looking at them online. The artwork was crazy, geometrical designs. I would have had to hang a blanket over them. My husband was astonished at my strong reactions. He said, "We're just gonna sleep there. What does it matter that I didn't like the decor?" But I am a butterfly, and I must have beautiful colors. Brown, orange, and gray are colors that I dislike being surrounded by. A vacation is supposed to be relaxing, and I wouldn't be able to relax in such an ugly room. I then showed my darling husband my ideal. And though we vetoed the location because it was in a party location near a casino, he could see the difference in the beauty and relaxation level of the room and grounds. We ultimately decided to go to the Pepper Tree Inn in Santa Barbara, where the rooms had a more neutral white and pale green palette, and the gardens and pools looked beautiful and refreshing. And they were, and we had a beautiful sunset from our balcony. Plus, the rooms were comfortable, with complimentary candy, cookies, fruit, and bottled water. And they even had a surprisingly good restaurant on site. My bottom line of reading and implementing the Clutter Connection is it is revolutionary because it is simple and makes sense. I highly recommend reading it. I also recommend watching her Clutterbug YouTube channel. Cass is both informative and entertaining. Be sure to watch to the end of each video because some of her ending stories are hilarious. May God bless you as you find your Clutterbug style and as you create a cozy, comforting, clean, and clutter-free home.